Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that someone has been secretly making thousands of decisions for you. Tiny decisions, harmless decisions, the kind you barely notice. Take the safe option. Skip today's workout. Wait one more day. Don't send the email. Stay quiet. Try later. Individually, none of them seem important, but together, they quietly redesign your entire future. Now, here's the disturbing part. The person making those decisions knows everything about you. Your fears, your habits, your dreams, even the excuses you'll believe before you say them out loud. If someone like that existed, you'd call them dangerous. You'd want to know their name. You'd ask why they're sabotaging your life. Well, we've spent years blaming procrastination, fear, perfectionism, lack of discipline. Today, we're reopening the case. Because none of those are the mastermind. They're just fingerprints left at the crime scene. The real saboteur has been hiding in plain sight. And by the end of this investigation, there's a good chance you'll recognize them. The uncomfortable part? You've trusted them your entire life. Your brain has an interesting security policy. It blocks opportunities, but somehow lets unnecessary worries through without a password. Self-sabotage has incredible customer service.
Every investigation starts with the obvious suspects. So, let's line them up. First, procrastination. That certainly looks guilty. It always seems to appear right before something important. Need to finish a project? Suddenly reorganizing your desk feels like a national emergency. Need to make an important phone call? For some reason, your kitchen has never looked dirtier. Procrastination has impeccable timing, almost suspiciously impeccable. But here's the problem. Procrastination doesn't decide what you're afraid of. It only delays it. So maybe it's just the getaway driver. Next suspect. Fear. Now we're getting somewhere. Fear has a motive. It keeps you alive. Thousands of years ago, that was a fantastic strategy. If a bush moved, assume it was a tiger. Run first. Ask questions later. Today, the bush is an email. The tiger is a job interview. And somehow, your heart still reacts like you're being hunted. Not exactly an efficient software update. But fear had a problem too. It protects you from danger, yet it also protects you from opportunity. Which is a little like hiring a bodyguard who refuses to let you leave your own house. Then there's perfectionism. Perhaps the most polite criminal you'll ever meet. It never says, don't do it. It whispers, do it later. When you're better. When you know more. When it's perfect. How thoughtful. How generous. How completely impossible. Perfectionism has probably prevented more masterpieces than failure ever did. And here's the funniest part. Perfectionism wears a fake mustache and introduces itself as high standards. Honestly, that's an Oscar-worthy performance. So, 3 suspects, 3 convincing stories, 3 excellent motives. And yet, something still doesn't fit. Because these aren't masterminds, they're accomplices. They're following orders. The real question is, who's giving them those orders? Procrastination doesn't steal your time. It simply keeps asking if you'd like to renew your subscription. Perfectionism is the only employee who misses every deadline while insisting on exceptional quality. Fear still thinks every notification is a saber-toothed tiger asking for your location.
Every investigation has a moment when one tiny detail changes everything. This is that moment. We've questioned procrastination. We've questioned fear. We've questioned perfectionism. But there's one strange detail none of them can explain. If you're truly afraid of failure, why do you sometimes sabotage things that are already going well? You finally start exercising,
Then suddenly skip an entire week. You finally meet someone amazing. Then stop replying. You finally get the opportunity you've been dreaming about. And somehow, you become too busy. Interesting, because failure isn't even in the room anymore. So why is the sabotage still happening? Maybe we've been asking the wrong question. What if self-sabotage isn't trying to protect you from failure? What if it's trying to protect something else? Your identity. Here's a strange experiment. Imagine someone has called you the quiet one since childhood. Year after year. School. Family. Friends.
Eventually, you stop hearing it as an opinion. It becomes a job description. Now imagine walking into a room and acting completely differently. Confident, funny, fearless. Your brain doesn't say, "Great job." It whispers, "That's not us." Because your identity isn't just who you think you are, it's what your brain has practiced believing. And brains hate rewriting old stories. They're incredibly sentimental editors. They'd rather publish the same edition for 20 years than admit chapter 1 might have been wrong. Your identity has a fascinating hiring policy. It keeps promoting the same version of you even after they've clearly stopped doing the job well. That's when something clicked. Maybe procrastination isn't protecting you from work. Maybe perfectionism isn't protecting you from mistakes. Maybe fear isn't protecting you from danger. Maybe they're all protecting the same thing, a familiar identity. And if that's true, we've just found our first real lead. Your identity updates about as often as the printer drivers nobody wants to install. Your brain treats personality like a family recipe, even when it's terrible. We've always done it this way. Self-sabotage doesn't hate success. It just gets nervous when success starts changing the cast of characters.
So, let's test our new suspect. Imagine I hand you 2 books. The first one has a cracked cover. Some pages are missing. The ending isn't great. But you've read it 100 times. You know every chapter, every twist, every disappointment. The second book is beautifully written. It could completely change your life. There's just one problem. The cover is blank. No title, no reviews, no idea how it ends. Which one do you think your brain reaches for first? Not because it's better, because it's predictable. Your identity works exactly the same way. Even when the story is painful, it's familiar. And familiarity feels strangely safe. That's why people stay in jobs they hate, relationships they've outgrown, dreams they've already abandoned. Not because they're weak, because certainty is incredibly addictive. Here's something even stranger. Your brain doesn't ask, will this make us happier? It asks, will this still feel like us? That's a very different question. Imagine an airport with 2 gates. Gate A, known misery. Gate B, unknown possibility. Your brain checks the departure board, looks at both gates, and quietly says, let's not miss our usual flight. Remarkable customer loyalty. No frequent flyer benefits, no upgrades, just the same destination. Again and again. This explains something psychologists have observed for decades. Real change often feels wrong. Not because it's wrong, because it's unfamiliar. Your old identity begins sending notifications. This isn't like us. People like us don't do this. Remember who you are. Interesting choice of words, because who you are may simply be the story you've repeated the longest, and stories can be rewritten. But first, you have to stop treating the first draft as sacred. Your brain has the loyalty of someone who still uses the same password from 2009.
Identity is like that one friend who insists on ordering your meal because you always get this. Your comfort zone offers an unlimited return policy. Unfortunately, every return goes to yesterday.
After weeks of investigation, we finally had enough evidence. The fingerprints matched. The timeline made sense. The suspects all pointed to the same place. Case closed.
Or so we thought.
Because one question refused to disappear. Why would your brain protect an identity that keeps making you unhappy?
That doesn't sound like sabotage. It sounds like terrible management.
Until we found one final piece of evidence. Your brain isn't trying to make you successful. It never signed up for that job. Its first assignment was much simpler. Keep you alive. That's it. Success? Optional. Happiness? Nice bonus. Survival? Non-negotiable. Suddenly, everything starts making sense. Your brain isn't asking, will this improve our future? It's asking, will we survive if this changes? Those are completely different investigations. Think about it. 10,000 years ago, being rejected by your tribe wasn't embarrassing. It was dangerous. Being alone could mean starvation, exposure, death.
So your brain built an incredible alarm system. Anything that threatened belonging triggered the emergency sirens. Fast forward to today. You're not standing outside a cave. You're about to speak in a meeting, post a video, start a business, ask someone out, apply for the promotion. Logically, nothing life-threatening is happening. But your brain opens the same dusty file from thousands of years ago. Warning, possible exile. Activate anxiety. Reduce confidence. Recommend staying invisible. Honestly, someone should really update this software. Imagine hiring a security guard whose entire resume says excellent at protecting castles, then asking him to work inside a modern airport. Every time the automatic doors open, he raises the drawbridge. Every suitcase looks suspicious. Every traveler is treated like an invading army. Ridiculous? Absolutely. Useful? Once upon a time. Very. Your brain isn't broken. It's overqualified for a world that no longer exists. And that's the biggest twist in this entire case. Self-sabotage was never your enemy. It was an ancient survival strategy. Doing an outdated job with incredible dedication. Your brain still has the survival instincts of a cave manager and the software update habits of a company that ignores every notification. Anxiety is basically your brain's smoke alarm. Unfortunately, it also goes off when someone burns toast. Evolution did an amazing job. It just forgot to include an uninstall ancient fears button. So, who was the invisible saboteur? Not procrastination, not fear, not perfectionism, not even your identity. They were never the mastermind. They were employees following instructions. The real architect was a survival system, trying to solve modern problems with ancient solutions. And honestly, it deserves a little more credit than we've given it. Think about everything your brain has done. It kept your ancestors alive through famine, predators, disease, war. And now, we get angry because it makes us nervous before a Zoom meeting. That's a little unfair. The problem isn't that your brain is outdated. The problem is it never received evidence that the danger is over. Your brain doesn't believe promises. It believes proof. Every small action you repeat becomes evidence. Every difficult conversation you survive, evidence. Every risk that doesn't destroy you, evidence. Every uncomfortable decision that leads to growth, more evidence. You're not arguing with your brain. You're training a very cautious detective, one case at a time, one clue at a time, one successful experiment at a time. Eventually, the detective stops expecting monsters behind every door. Not because someone told him, because the evidence changed. Maybe that's why real confidence feels so different from motivation. Motivation makes speeches. Evidence writes reports. And your brain has always trusted reports more than speeches. So, the next time you catch yourself thinking, people like me never do things like this, ask a different question. Who wrote that report? And more importantly, do they still work here? Because perhaps the most dangerous thing about self-sabotage was never the behavior itself. It was believing the case had already been solved. This investigation is officially closed. But your next experiment starts the moment this video ends. Motivation gives inspirational TED Talks. Evidence quietly updates company policy. Your brain doesn't read motivational quotes, it reads receipts. Somewhere inside your head, there's still a detective who thinks your first school presentation is breaking news. Maybe it's time to hand him a newer newspaper.
Every investigation leaves behind one unanswered question.
So tell me, what belief have you been treating as evidence, even though it was only a story? Leave it in the comments. It might become the first clue in our next case. And if you enjoy uncovering the hidden bugs of the human mind, subscribe.